When my wife confessed her affair to me, I acted completely shocked. I widened my eyes, my voice trembled. I pretended like my whole world was crashing down. But the truth was, I had found out exactly 6 months earlier and had been quietly meeting with a divorce attorney ever since. My name is Michael Thompson. I'm a 42-year-old software engineer, and I was married for 15 years. Or I was married because this is the story of how I ended a 15-year marriage with a single strategic move. We live in Seattle, in a beautiful neighborhood, with the typical American family setup, white picket fence and all. Sarah is 38, a marketing director, and we have 2 kids. Emma is 12, Jake is 10. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. The photos we shared on social media, vacation memories, the kids' achievements. Everyone saw us as the goal couple. But only we knew the realities inside our marriage. Sarah and I met in college. We both attended the University of Washington. She studied marketing. I studied computer engineering. It wasn't love at first sight, but we grew closer over time. After graduation, we got married, had kids, built our careers. A standard life story. The first 10 years were genuinely good. We argued, of course. What couple doesn't? But we didn't have major problems. Sarah was energetic and social. I was more introverted. This balance worked well. She would draw me into social situations. I would calm her down. The last 3 to 4 years, something had changed. Sarah became more distant, more critical. She complained about my focus on work, not helping enough at home, not being romantic. I buried myself deeper into work, escaping the tension at home. It was a vicious cycle. But I never thought about divorce. I thought marriage was just like this. Ups and downs, difficulties. You work through them. Everything started last March. March 15th, Wednesday evening. I remember the exact date because that night my life changed. Sarah and I were watching Netflix as usual. I think we were watching The Crown. Emma and Jake were upstairs doing their homework. It was around 9:30 p.m. Sarah's phone rang. She looked at the screen, said work, and stepped onto the balcony. Normal. Sarah was a marketing director. Sometimes she got work-related calls in the evening. But this time something was different. When she went to the balcony, she closed the glass door. She normally wouldn't close it. And I heard her voice, that flirty, shy giggle. It wasn't the voice a married woman of 15 years would use for work. Instinctively, I knew something was wrong. She came back inside 10 minutes later. Who was calling? I asked. Oh, just about tomorrow's meeting, she said. But she wasn't looking into my eyes. Sarah never looked into my eyes when she lied. I knew these details from being married for 15 years. That night I lay in bed and thought, maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe it really was work. But that voice, that laugh, I couldn't forget it. The next few days, I started observing Sarah more carefully. Her phone usage pattern had changed. She used to leave her phone on the table. Now, she carried it with her constantly. When messages came, she would respond immediately but hide the screen from me. Saturday morning while making breakfast, her phone rang again. This time she said my mom, but the caller ID showed Kevin. I saw it, but pretended I didn't. Who was Kevin? There was no Kevin among the friends Sarah talked about. No Kevin in her co-workers list either. At least not that I knew of. That weekend I analyzed Sarah's behavior. She was dressing more carefully, had started using a new perfume, had changed her phone password. She used to use my birthday as the password. Now it must be something different because the old password didn't work when I tried it. Worst of all, she was talking to me less, making less eye contact. As if she felt guilty, but at the same time seemed to be getting happiness from somewhere else. The first few weeks, I tried to convince myself. You're being paranoid, Michael, I said. Sarah wouldn't cheat on you. You have a 15-year marriage, 2 kids. Sarah doesn't do things like this. But my instincts weren't wrong. Second week of April, I was certain. Sunday morning, Sarah had gone to shower. She left her phone charging, forgotten on the kitchen counter. A message came from someone named Kevin. Is our date tonight canceled? You haven't responded. At that moment, my stomach turned. The word date. Co-workers say meeting, appointment. Date carried a completely different meaning. I immediately did a Google search for Kevin Sarah Thompson Seattle. Nothing came up. Kevin wasn't on Sarah's LinkedIn profile, not on Facebook, not on Instagram either. He was like a ghost. That day, I asked Sarah, are you going out tonight? Yes, she said, meeting with friends. I didn't ask which friends because I knew she would lie. She left the house at 7 p.m. "I'll be back by 11, she said. After putting the kids to bed, I looked out the window to check if Sarah's car was in the parking spot. It wasn't. She came home at 11:30. "How was it?" I asked. "It was good," she said, but again she wasn't looking into my eyes. And there was a scent on her I didn't recognize. Men's cologne. That night I lay in bed and made my plan. I could scream, start a fight, file for divorce immediately. But there was one thing I learned in 15 years of marriage. Sarah was a master manipulator. She would cry, beg, say I'll change, and convince me. Then repeat the same thing a few months later. Maybe not cheating, but we'd been through similar situations. For example, 5 years ago Sarah had gone on an uncontrolled shopping spree with my credit card. When caught, she cried, apologized, said, "I'll never do it again." 6 months later, she repeated the same thing. Or 3 years ago, I found out she was messaging her ex-boyfriend on Facebook. Same drama, same apologies, same promises. This time, I was going to play differently. This time, I would be patient, gather evidence, and act from the strongest position. Next morning, I called David Richardson, one of the city's best divorce attorneys. I had Googled Seattle's best divorce lawyers, and Richardson's name came up most frequently. His fees were high, but worth it. "Mr. Thompson," he said on the phone, "can you summarize your situation?" "I suspect my wife is cheating on me," I said, "but I don't have concrete evidence yet." "Can you prove your wife's affair?" he asked. "Not yet," I said, "but I will." "Then my advice is this," Richardson said. "Gather evidence, but don't let her know. If she realizes you know about her affair, she'll be more careful and finding evidence will become harder. Be patient." We had our first meeting in the last week of April. Richardson's office was in downtown Seattle on the 34th floor with a magnificent view. He was in his 50s, gray-haired, an experienced attorney. The diplomas and awards in his office showed how successful he was. "Mr. Thompson," he said, "in Washington state, adultery is an important factor in divorce cases. It provides advantages especially in property division and child custody. But we need clear evidence for this." "What kind of evidence?" I asked. "Photos, messages, witness statements, financial spending records. You mentioned your wife is seeing someone named Kevin. We need to identify this person." Richardson gave me a task list. Access Sarah's phone records, track her spending habits, identify Kevin, find witnesses. Most importantly, Richardson said, continue acting normal. If your wife becomes suspicious, she'll do everything more carefully. In the following weeks, I played the perfect husband role. When Sarah came home late, I didn't question her. When I saw her texting Kevin, I didn't react. I even said, "You seem really stressed at work. Maybe you should take some time off." Sarah received this behavior positively. I heard her tell her friends, "Michael has changed. He's become more understanding." If only she knew. Mid-May, I made the big breakthrough. I got a chance to check Sarah's laptop. She had forgotten WhatsApp web open. I saw all the messages between her and Kevin. The messages started at the beginning of March. Initially innocent, work-related messages. "How did the meeting go? Is the boss angry again?" and such. But gradually they became more personal. End of March, Kevin had written, "Can we talk privately?" Sarah replied, "Sure, about what?" "I can't hide my feelings for you anymore," Kevin wrote. From the beginning of April, the messages completely changed. "I miss you. I hate having to hide from your husband. Can we meet tonight?" and similar messages. The heaviest was from mid-April. Kevin wrote, "Have you ever thought about leaving him?" Sarah replied, "There are kids, Kevin. It's not that simple. But I'm not happy with him. I've never been as happy as I am with you." I screenshotted all the messages and uploaded them to Google Drive. I immediately sent them to Richardson. "Perfect," Richardson said on the phone. "But we need more. Physical evidence, photos, witness statements." To identify Kevin, I examined Sarah's LinkedIn profile. She had 347 connections. I tried to find Kevin by looking at them one by one. Finally, I found him. Kevin Matthews, 34 years old, marketing specialist, working at Sarah's company. I opened Kevin's Facebook profile. Single, handsome, works out, travels. Typical modern man profile. I could understand why Sarah was attracted. End of May, I had the opportunity to see Kevin in real life. I was waiting in my car outside Sarah's company. When Sarah came out, there was a man with her. I was sure it was Kevin. I took photos, but only while they were talking. They didn't have a romantic moment yet. In June, I started following them. On evenings when Sarah said she was meeting with friends, I wanted to find out where she really went. I followed 3 times, and all 3 times I saw her meeting with Kevin. First meeting was at Green Lake Park. They were just walking, talking. Second meeting was at a cafe in Capitol Hill. The third meeting, I had photos from that night. Last week of June, they met at an Italian restaurant in Belltown. I was in a position where I could observe their table. At first they were eating normally, but at the end of the meal, Kevin took Sarah's hand. Sarah didn't pull back. Then they kissed. I took photos with my phone camera from 200 meters away. The zoom quality wasn't perfect, but their faces were recognizable. Richardson said, "Perfect. Now we can move." But I wasn't ready yet. I told Richardson, "Let's wait. Let her confess." Because I knew Sarah would eventually feel guilty. And the moment she confessed, I would be in the victim position. Throughout July, I continued analyzing Sarah's behavior. Her meetings with Kevin had decreased, but their texting had increased. Sarah seemed more tense, using her phone more. Beginning of August, Sarah's behavior started changing. She looked more guilty. I heard her crying at midnight. Her texting with Kevin decreased. I knew confession time was approaching. Maybe she's thinking about leaving Kevin, I thought. Or she's starting to feel guilty. In either case, the result would be the same. Sarah would want to confess. Richardson and I had determined our final strategy. After Sarah confessed, we would wait 2 weeks, decide we couldn't work things out, then serve the divorce papers. This strategy is very important, Richardson had said. When Sarah confesses to you, you'll act shocked. Then you'll allow her to try. But of course, you won't forgive her. This way you'll be in the complete victim position in court. End of August, Sarah's behavior changed even more. When she came home, she would immediately shower. She kept her phone on silent constantly. When going to bed at night, she would stay awake for long periods, seeming lost in thought. One night, I heard her crying. In the bathroom, with the water running, she was crying. I knocked on the door. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm fine," she said, "just tired." But the next day I noticed she hadn't received any messages from Kevin. His last seen time on WhatsApp was also 2 days ago. I think Kevin had ended the relationship, or Sarah had ended it. And finally that moment came. Second week of September, Thursday evening. Exact date, September 12th, 2024. I'll never forget this date. While Sarah was cooking in the kitchen, she said, "Michael," with a different tone in her voice. "After the kids go to bed, there's something I need to talk to you about." From her tone, I knew what she was going to say. The moment I'd been waiting for 6 months was coming. My heart raced, but I tried to appear calm. "Sure," I said. "Is it something serious?" "Yes," she said, not looking into my eyes. "Very serious." We ate dinner, put the kids to bed. Sarah's hands were trembling. She looked very tense. Finally, we went to the living room. Sarah sat on the couch, her hands on her knees. "This is very difficult," she said. "But I need to be honest with you." She was preparing to say the sentence I'd been waiting 6 months for. "Michael," she continued, her voice trembling. I've been seeing someone else." Tears poured from her eyes. "Forgive me, Michael. This was never planned. It just happened. But I can't hide it anymore." This is where I stepped in. The performance I'd been planning for 6 months was beginning. I widened my eyes, acted like I'd been electrocuted. "What?" I said, my voice cracking. "Sarah, what are you saying? This is a joke, right?" Sarah started crying harder. "I wish it were a joke. Michael, I'm so sorry. I know this is a terrible thing." I jumped up, put my hands to my hair. "This can't be real," I said. "We've been married for 15 years, Sarah. We have 2 kids. How could you do this?" I know," she said, sobbing. "I've been a terrible wife. A terrible mother. But Michael, something was going wrong between us. Couldn't you feel it?" I could play this game. What was going wrong? I was happy. I thought our family was happy. "You're always working," Sarah said. "You don't talk to me. You don't spend time with the kids. I feel lonely. So this is my fault." I shouted. Of course I was acting, but it was so convincing that I almost believed myself. "No," Sarah said. "It's not your fault. This is my mistake. Completely my mistake." "Who?" I asked, as if I didn't know the answer. "Who is this man?" "Someone named Kevin," she said very quietly. "I met him at work. At first we were just friends, but then. She couldn't finish. How long? I asked, my voice trembling. 4 months, she lied. They'd been together for 6 months. 4 months. I shouted. You deceived me for 4 months? For 4 months you came home and acted like nothing happened. Sarah collapsed. Yes, she said. And I hated myself every day. How? How did this happen? How did it start? I pretended I wanted to know the details. Sarah told the story. Of course, her version. How understanding Kevin was, how she discussed the problems she had with him, how they gradually got closer. The day we first kissed, she said, I was going to come home and tell you. But you were talking about something related to the kids, and I wondered if the timing was right. Lie. After the first kiss, they had started meeting more frequently. So now? I asked. Is this thing with Kevin still going on? No, she said quickly. I ended it 2 weeks ago. Because I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't stand lying to you. This was half a lie. I knew Kevin had left Sarah. That night we talked for almost 3 hours. Sarah cried, apologized, said she would change. I played the shocked role. How can I trust you now? How does this get fixed? I asked such questions. We can go to couples therapy, Sarah said. I'll do anything, Michael. Just give me a chance. I don't know, Sarah, I said. This is such a big betrayal. I don't know if it gets better with time. Of course it wouldn't get better, but I couldn't say that now. That night I lay in bed and thought about the final phase of my plan. Sarah had confessed to me, and I was in the victim position. Now Richardson and I could plan the final move. Next morning I called Richardson. We're ready, I said. She confessed. Perfect, Richardson said. Now we'll wait 2 weeks. During this time you'll observe your wife's change efforts. Of course it won't work. Then we'll serve the divorce papers. With our evidence, this divorce will go in your favor, Richardson continued. Waiting 6 months without letting Sarah know you knew about her affair will give you a huge advantage in court. For the next 2 weeks, I watched Sarah's I'll change efforts. She claimed she cut all communication with Kevin. She suggested couples therapy. She planned our second honeymoon. She started doing more housework. She started paying more attention to the kids. The usual Sarah. She always did this when caught. It was the same after the credit card incident. Same after the ex-boyfriend incident. But this time it was too late. First week of October, October 5th Friday, I served Sarah the divorce papers. Richardson had prepared them from his office. In a thick envelope with official seals. Sarah was drinking coffee in the kitchen. The kids were at school. Perfect timing. Sarah, I said, placing the envelope on the table. This is for you. Sarah opened the envelope. When she saw the divorce papers, her face turned white. I'll never forget the expression on her face at that moment. Shock, disbelief, then anger. Michael, what are you doing? She screamed. We talked about this. I said I would change. We said we'd go to couples therapy. Sarah, I said calmly, I made this decision 6 months ago. I was just waiting for the right time. At that moment she understood what I meant. Her eyes widened, the envelope fell from her hand. You knew, she whispered. I discovered your relationship with Kevin in March. I met with Richardson for the first time in April. When you confessed, the divorce papers were already ready. Sarah collapsed onto the chair. Then why did you wait this long? Because if you confessed, I would be in the victim position. And I would be right. You deceived me, Sarah said. For 2 weeks I had hope. I thought, maybe we can fix this. You deceived me for 6 months, I said. I only deceived you for 2 weeks. Sarah started crying. This isn't fair, Michael. People make mistakes. I'm sorry. Fair. I said. Was it fair when you met with Kevin and cheated on me? Was it fair when you lied? Was it fair when you deceived the kids? But I can change, she pleaded. Sarah, I said, we've been married for 15 years. You always say I'll change. But you never changed. I have no reason to think this time will be different. From that day on, everything happened very quickly. Sarah hired a lawyer, but she had no chance against Richardson. The evidence we had was too strong. Sarah's lawyer suggested uncontested divorce. My client admits her mistake, he said. A long trial process isn't in anyone's interest. But Richardson refused. My client was cheated on, he said. We will defend his rights to the fullest in court. 6 months later, the divorce case concluded. Due to Sarah's affair, I got 70% of our house, all of my 401k account, and child support. Sarah could see the kids 2 days a week. Her relationship with Kevin had already ended. Because Kevin had agreed to be with a married woman, but didn't think it was worth being with a divorced woman in terrible condition. Sarah now lives in a small apartment. She found a new job because she refused to continue working with Kevin. The kids see her on weekends, but they mainly stay with me. Emma and Jake had tough days at first. Divorce is hard for children, but they adjusted over time. "Dad, why did you and Mom separate?" they asked. "Sometimes people become incompatible," I said. "I'll tell them the truth when they're old enough to understand." The lesson of this story is, sometimes the best revenge is waiting patiently. My wife cheated on me for 6 months. I waited 6 months for her to confess. In the end, who really played whom? Richardson was right. Divorce cases are like chess, he had said. The patient one wins. I was patient, and I won. Now I'm 43, a single father. Is it hard? Yes. But at least I'm living an honest life. I'm not deceiving anyone, no one is deceiving me. And my children see a real father model. Maybe I'll remarry someday. Maybe I won't. But one thing is certain, I'll never again allow anyone to make a fool of me.